Welcome to the participants of Masterclass. Today's topic is how intelligent data processing is driving AR and AP productivity. As part of our session, we'd like to just quickly take you through with some housekeeping items. I'd like to request you all to please be muted as we progress through the masterclass. And if you do have any questions, post them on the chat window at the bottom of the text on the right-hand side. With this, I would now like to invite our masterclass speaker, John Salick. John, over to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Akshay. Have another good program today, and it's kind of a follow-up and a elaboration on a topic we spoke about earlier, intelligent document processing. And we want to talk about how specifically it improves productivity in some selected accounts receivable operations and an accounts payable function. So we'll introduce the topic with a little background. Then we'll define IDP, Intelligent Document Processing, give you a sense how it works, certainly not from a technical standpoint. And then we'll visit and look at 4 specific use cases where IDP is driving productivity. And that'll be the claims, also known as deductions processing, cash application, credit control, and then going over to the AP side, looking at how it drives productivity in processing supplier invoices. And we'll review the benefits, share with you a very interesting customer success story, wrap it up with a conclusion and the takeaways from the session today, and then answer your questions. So let's quickly give a little backdrop here. In our view, when you think of AR, managing accounts receivable, and all the tasks and operations that are required, what are the really important ones, and which ones would you prefer to have you and your team spend the most time on? Well, in our opinion, that's credit risk assessment to prevent bad debt losses, or at least minimize them, not prevent them. And then secondly, minimize past due and delinquency. That can be affected as well with credit, but also collection contact. I mean, you can never do enough, really. And I think in a lot of credit collection departments that we've worked with, a common complaint is, well, we just don't have enough time to fully cover our portfolio. So we would identify those 2 activities as the most important in accounts receivable management. On the other side, looking at payables, what are the critically important tasks? Well, the first one is validating the legitimacy and accuracy of vendor invoices. It may seem like an obvious statement, but there's point out 2 things. One, there are companies out there or people that just send bogus invoices, primarily to big companies, and hope they'll get paid. We've seen that a lot with our clients. And then also remember, there are a lot of firms out there that are payables auditors. And what they do is they look at 2 or 3 years of your recent payables and they audit them to see if, 1, you've paid duplicates, 2, you've overpaid the price, you've paid freight when you shouldn't have, you've paid sales tax when you shouldn't have, and they tally all this up, and of course then they get 1/3 or 1/4 of what they identified. And that's pretty widespread. So validating the legitimacy and accuracy of vendor invoices is not a task to be dismissed. It's an important one. And then once that's done, scheduling their payment to optimize the cash utilization that best benefits your company. So these are the 2 critical tasks we see in each operation. And then the question is, are there other less important operational tasks diverting time away from these major objectives? And the answer that we've heard most places is yes, it is. We're not spending enough time there. Well, if that's the case, then intelligent document processing can help. To continue on this background, the environment we're dealing with processing financial documents, first of all, is the volume. Secondly, they vary widely in format, which the tech folks would label as unstructured. But they do contain a lot of information, a lot of valuable information that you need. And all this makes data extraction difficult. And the firm 10XDS has estimated that 80% of financial data arrives in an unstructured form. I think Gartner is estimated at 90%. So I think the message is pretty clear there. So we get unstructured data. And what are the tasks in handling unstructured data? Well, first of all, you got to understand the context. Is it a vendor invoice, or is it a remittance advice from a customer that's made a payment? The next task is to extract only the required data and all the required data, and even from handwritten documents, which you still see. And then combine the context with the data, and then route this data in a usable format to the next step in the process. Typically, given the predominance of unstructured data and its wide variation in format and mode, it required human intelligence to process it, and as a result, human beings. But here's the nice thing about IDP. It automates the handling of unstructured data, which is great. So exactly what is intelligent document processing? How does it work? Well, essentially, it converts unstructured data into structured data in a format that promotes its use in the next processing step. And it also extracts all the required data and only the required data. How does it do it? Well, artificial intelligence, AI, I'm sure you've all heard about that. And then some of the other related technologies that support and enhance AI, such as machine learning, natural language processing, and kind of the cousin of AI, robotic processing automation, RPA. I'm sure you've heard all of those. You may be using these technologies as well. So the source documents are first they're scanned, and then the IDP goes to work to extract the data, and then the documents are stored in a digital format and, of course, available 24/7, 365 on a global basis. And at the end of the day, cognitive AI data extraction, which is really IDP, is faster, cheaper, and more accurate than having humans read the documents. And even RPA is constrained. It doesn't work well with these multiple unknown format documents in multiple modes. In fact, RPA requires structured data, not unstructured data. So that's a big obstacle. And nicely, IDP accommodates multiple languages, multiple currencies, and at the end of the day, delivers benefits, including increases in speed, accuracy, and productivity. So a very valuable capability. As I said earlier, IDP converts unstructured data into structured data, which and then feeds it to the next step in processing. And this, of course, facilitates the next step in processing tremendously. The next step, generally performed in an ERP system or other application, can also be enhanced tremendously by using AI-powered digital assistants and or RPA. But the key is setting this data up, getting it extracted from the chaos in which it enters your organization, get it structured, and then that enables you to take advantage of other technologies such as AI-powered digital assistants and RPA. And just some examples here of what an AI digital assistant can do. For claims, it can route the claims to the designated resolver based on type of dispute, type of deduction, or type of or customer, and attach all the supporting documents. For cash application, extracts the remit data, that can process it through the auto cash engine, and can also execute automatic small balance write-offs. Customer pays $995 on a $1,000 invoice, leaving a $5 residual or short payment. You can have that just written off. Consider the invoice paid in full, close it, and move on to the next one. Credit. A lot of things to do with credit. First of all, AI-powered digital assistant can help administer the credit application. In other words, have an online credit application. Prospective customer submits it incomplete. Well, the digital assistant can kind of send it back with a nice message. Need to fill in lines 12 and 14. And prohibits processing until the credit app is fully completed. And then it can gather the data you need for a credit decision from a credit bureau, can validate tax ID, business licensing, can even compile a credit score. Similarly, for supplier invoices, after the data has been extracted, a digital assistant can validate the invoice through the three-way match, right? Supplier invoice, your purchase order, receiving document. Or if you're working off evaluated receipts, then your PO and the receiving document. You can set that all up for you. So the combination of the two, IDP and AI/RPA, is very powerful, and how you really gain those large improvements in productivity. So that's the framework. That's how it works. Great capabilities, great technologies. Let's look now at application and specific functions like claims processing, claims also known as deductions, short pays, chargebacks, uh, tend to be large in volume. Most of them tend to be small in value. Takes work to research and resolve them. Tends to be a little annoying, quite honestly. But what can IDP do there? Well, it automates the first part, the first step of extracting the required data. And it can get this data from one of your customers' vendor portals, your own EIPP portal, the remit advice, emails, debit memos, however it comes in, and create those deductions. And certainly the key data varies by organization, but typically it's customer invoice, payment information, things like that. And then this data, once extracted, is arrayed in a CSV or other format file and fed into the downstream processing. So this is the first step that gets tremendously accelerated and gets fully automated or close to fully automated. So it gets the research and resolution off to a flying start. And of course, establishes a unique record for every deduction and stores all the digital documents. So a good way to accelerate deduction resolution. Similarly, in cash application, extracting the required information needed to apply a payment from the remittance data that the customer supplies is the first step in cash app. And if you can automate it and accelerate it and improve its accuracy, you're going to improve the process. And as I mentioned earlier, remit data comes in from all different sources, vendor portals, your own portal, remit advice that's emailed to you, sent in an Excel spreadsheet, whatever, different files, PDF, TIFF files, GIF files, Lockbox images, Lockbox data files, just a wide range of formats and modes for transmitting remit data. IDP can handle all that, sets it all up in a nice file, which then is run through AutoCache. And we've seen improvements in the AutoCache hit rate. We've seen them get as high as 85 to 95%. So it's a big help. And again, it's taking that first step of data extracting and accelerating it. Where can it help in credit control? Well, you think of your credit application, asks for a lot of information. Prospective customer fills it out, sends it to you. Well, let's get that information extracted and organized in a usable format. And what is that information? Well, probably 20 different items. Company's legal name, doing business name, tax ID, et cetera, et cetera. And here again, credit applications come in to your house in a variety of formats. Ideally, it's online. You're using an online credit application. But, some still come in via fax, email, hard copy via the postal mail. And IDP can extract data from all of those and set it up, then validate some of the data in there, like business licenses and all, and sets it up for the credit evaluation to begin. So here again, it's that theme of accelerating the first step to get the process off to a flying start. And what's nice is the data can be arrayed in whatever format you prefer. So if you have a credit manager that feels that Dun & Bradstreet rating is the most important single factor in evaluating creditworthiness, well, you can have that displayed first. If they feel other factors are more important, you can have that displayed in whatever order of importance you like, which again facilitates the credit investigation. All right, so that was, the order to cash AR side of the house. Let's look quickly at payables. And remember, for a lot of companies, the volume in payables is huge. A lot of invoices coming in, a lot of supplier invoices coming in. So any way of automating that process is going to pay some big dividends. So here again, the first step in the process, you get a supplier invoice. You got to extract the required data. And again, invoices come in a variety of forms. Online, portals, EDI, email, PDF files, and still some hard copies. Just heard a horror story from a company that's a customer of a large customer, large company that's still billing hard copy, no electronic billing. It was a little hard to believe. But anyway, that's how it comes into you. You got to be able to deal with all of that. So extracts the data and really extracts the data that you need to approve and pay an invoice. And here again, it's probably 12, 15, maybe more data elements. Certainly the ones I've listed here, vendor name, PO number, value, all those things. Very, very important. And then, retrieves the receiving document, your own purchase order. Here again, establishes a unique record for every vendor invoice, which is great because remember, if you've got a blanket purchase order for a year and you get weekly or monthly shipments of the same amount, the invoice is going to be of the same value. So you can say, oh, we just paid our supplier $17,200. What was that for? Was that for the March invoice, the April invoice, the May invoice? So having that unique record is very, very important. And here again, all this data on vendor invoices that you want and need for your AP process is arrayed in generally a CSV file, but other formats as well, and fed into the AP system. So here's that common theme of accelerating and automating the very first step in these processes. This diagram might be a little difficult to read, but I know most of you get the PowerPoint, you download it and all. But it's a schematic showing the flow from receipt and scanning through data extraction to what I keep referring to as the next step in processing. All right, so we've talked about intelligent document processing, and we've also pointed out how powerful it is when it's combined with AI-powered digital assistants and or RPA. And we've talked about the benefits as we went along, but just to sum up now, what are those benefits? Well, substantially increased productivity and employee morale, because quite honestly, in plain speaking, you're eliminating the grunt work or the boring work or whatever term you want to use to describe it. And you're freeing up time to solve problems, to make improvements, maybe to reconcile some large accounts, large customer or vendor accounts that need reconciliation. Overall, it increases the accuracy of the operations and speeds it up. And if it's a function that is customer facing or impacts dealing with a customer and you speed it up, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So you get speed, you get productivity, you get accuracy. And ultimately, as the lower portion of this slide illustrates, when you make those improvements, you're improving the customer experience, you're increasing productivity, you're lowering costs. All of that is going to lead to increased revenue and profit. Let's share a customer success story here. And this is a good-sized company, several billion in sales. They medical product supplier operated on a global basis, 45 countries, 15 languages, 16 different banks. So when we talk about complexity, here's an example. That's a fair amount of complexity. And their particular situation was they had outsourced a lot of these OTC functions, but were unhappy and decided to bring it in-house. So they're establishing their own in-house shared service center. And then while doing that, they said, well, let's digitize our OTC. Let's get away from some of these paper-based manual operations. So that's an ambitious course of action. It's the right one, but that's doing a lot, doing a lot. A solution, part of the solution was intelligent document processing that Emagia supplies with its modules, along with the AI-powered digital assistants, specifically for the purpose of this discussion in claims, cash app, and collections. And what was the value achieved? Well, I'll just focus on the two areas that were among the four we discussed. Cash application. To me, the best measure is the auto cash hit rate. Well, here's an example. Australia went from 10 to 80%. Now, this is an operation that was very early on the auto cash journey, and this accelerated it and got them up to 80%, which is a good number. Good number. The next one, France, I find even a little more interesting and perhaps more impressive. I mean, they were already at 70% auto cash. That's a good number. Not a great number, but a good number. And then they were able to get it up to a great number, 95% hit rate. Impressive. And overall, for the whole company, 45 country operations, went from 50 to 80%. So that's 30% of applying customer payments that became automated that was once manual. That's a big jump. That's a big productivity leap. Now, on the deduction side, again, I think a great measurement is resolution time. And here, by accelerating that first step of capturing the required data on a deduction, the resolution time went from several weeks, which was good, to less than 1 week, which is really good. So what's our conclusion about IDP and AR and AP? First of all, it's used by many leading companies today. It is in practice today, not a next best thing coming down the pike. For operations that are completely manual, it can improve the productivity by 70 to 90%. Huge. Again, we talked about faster response time to customers and better accuracy. Okay, let's open it up now to your questions, Akshay.
Thank you very much, John. We already have a few very interesting questions coming up. The first one that came up is, how big is the market for IDP? Is there any room for anomalies and oddities since no technology can ever replace a human brain?
I'd have to research Gartner or similar organization for that, but I think my answer would be it's huge because it can be used by customers of companies of all sizes. It's economical enough and creates a payback large enough that even a smaller, medium-sized company can deploy it and have it be a profitable investment. Because remember, it's automating high volume operations. So it's displacing a lot of manual labor hours that can be deployed elsewhere. So I would have to say it's a huge market given its versatility and economy.
Thanks, John. Our next question is, what do you see are the challenges in processing financial documents?
Well, something we alluded to in the beginning of today's discussion. It's the variety, and here it's not a good thing. The unstructured data, the almost infinite number of formats that companies use to convey this data, whether it's on remittance advice, whether it's their reasons for taking a deduction, things like that. And it comes in all different forms. It can come in on a portal, email, fax still, postal mail. So you got different formats and different modes, and that's been the problem. Handling all that. I mean, RPA can't handle that by itself. So it's required human beings, and now IDP bridges that gap.
Right. Our next question is, I think it's all about embracing technology. The question is, people handling finance are mostly conventional, preferring the regular defined processes. Isn't it challenging for any service provider to embrace a new technology altogether? What is your take on adapting IDP?
Well, I'm a finance person, I don't think I was that resistant to change. But anyway, I think, the proof is the payback. The payback, if you can automate a manual activity that consumes thousands of hours of work, and you can redeploy those people to higher value add activities, or just take the productivity gain as a cost reduction, that has appeal to finance people. I mean, it's dollars and cents, profit and loss. And but I think on a softer view, eliminating grunt work, it's always good for your department, always good for a company, always good for your employees.
Sure. John, we are almost on top of the hour here. Let's take one final question, right?
Sure.
You did talk about a lot of dramatic improvements or profits that one can get in terms of productivity, increased productivity, and all. So the audience wants to know any other benefits of IDP in addition to increased productivity.
Well, that's the primary benefit, is increased productivity, which translates directly into cost savings. And I think the other benefits, increasing accuracy. What's the cost of rework? How prevalent is it in your organization? That's a labor savings too. Quicker and better response to customers, hard to measure, but most companies evaluate their suppliers, and they not only evaluate the quality and of the product or service, but they also evaluate the administrative quality of dealing with them. There's an old saying sometimes used about companies. Boy, they have a great product, but they're hell to do business with. Well, what I'm talking about here is that hell to do business with. Make it easier to do business with yourself, and over time, your image as a supplier and ultimately your market share is going to increase.
Wonderful. With that thought, I think it's time to wrap up our masterclass for today. Would like to thank all the attendees for this session, and also wanted to inform you that we're going to be having our next masterclass on Thursday, the 12th of August at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The topic for our next masterclass is top technology trends in 2021, hyper automation of accounts receivables operations. So that's going to be another Aquila masterclass. John, we look forward to the same from you.
Well, I'm looking forward to that one too. That's a good topic. We're going to have a good session.
That's a very good topic. Yes, yes. And we look forward to the audience also rejoining us for this session. Thank you very much, John. And all of you guys out there, have a wonderful day ahead. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.